Hello, and welcome to another episode of Between Two Pints. I'm your host, Rob, and today we're actually stepping away from the studio to film in my friend's living room. Today with me is my guest, Lindsay.
Hello!
And Lindsay, that's your close-up over there, so talk to the viewers through that camera.
Okay.
And there's a lot of viewers because it's the internet. And we have another special guest here. We have Angelo.
This is Angelo.
Angelo will likely be making a lot of noise in the background, but could you tell me a little about Angelo?
Angelo is actually my roommate's cat, and he's adopted. He was adopted as an older kitty.
Which means previously enjoyed.
Previously enjoyed, which is part of why he's so whiny.
And half price, I believe. I adopted an older cat, and they're a bargain. My cat, our neighbors used to come and tell me that he was actually Orange Hitler, which was interesting. So
yeah, lucky for us, Angelo's not quite that bad. He mostly just gets nicknamed Angelo or Winegelo or Whiny Pants.
Winegelo.
Winegelo.
Excellent. So you're here to tell our viewers today one of the topics we're going to talk about. Actually, first, we need to talk about the drink you made. So
yes.
This is your brainchild?
This is my concoction, yes. I call it the Whiskey Mojito.
Up here, yeah.
There we go.
Thank you, Vanna.
It's basically a drink I created out of boredom when I was stuck living in Squamish. And
Excellent.
It was summer, and I didn't have the components for a mojito, but I had a lot of whiskey at home from the winter. And yeah, do you want me to go over what's in it?
Let's just do a quick list of the ingredients.
Okay, so whiskey, of course.
Jameson's this time?
Yes, Jameson's. Then there's some lime juice and some mint that get muddled in there. And then a whole bunch of soda water to top it off. Or if you want to be fancy, San Pellegrino.
Excellent,
Yes.
excellent.
And then for extra fancy, there's some frozen blueberries in there today.
Wow, I think I might offer frozen strawberries at my place, but that's because I like frozen strawberries more.
Fair enough.
You are here to talk to us today about something called Subversive cross-stitch.
Yes, that is kind of what I do.
Excellent. What the heck is Subversive cross-stitch?
Well, it's not your grandma's cross-stitch is basically what it is. Cross-stitch in its most basic form is making designs or patterns or images with thread on fabric. Subversive cross-stitch is changing the topic to something that's a little bit more modern or updated. So subversive cross-stitch usually has like naughty phrases or kind of foul language. You can also get more like playful or fun kind of topics. Like I do a lot of Nintendo stuff or retro stuff, My Little Ponies, that kind of thing, Star Trek stuff.
You actually have a Star Trek one here. You know, normally you do these for people and then they take them away. So we'll have to show stills. Hopefully we'll have a few stills over this. But then you have this one?
Yes, so this is one of my Star Trek cross-stitches. Space the Final Frontier. Yeah, there it is.
Excellent. Okay, so, and we have some other great pictures. I know you did one that's like a Nintendo cartridge that says Blow Me, which is awesome. That made me laugh.
That was a
out loud.
custom order, which is why I don't have it right now. It's in its happy home right now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, what got you into cross-stitch?
Well, I became pretty sick a few years ago, like to the point where I couldn't really get out of bed. And most of the activities and hobbies that I had before I got sick were very active. Mm-hmm. So I was rock climbing and I was riding bikes and going to karaoke, as you know.
Yes, we've met through karaoke.
Yes.
Actually, oh wait, sorry.
Yes.
You have a karaoke cross-stitch that is amazing.
I do. Do you want
Please
to see
show
that
this.
one too? Okay.
This won't mean as much to you viewers, but this is an actual recreation of the actual form you fill out for karaoke.
At the Legion on Main Street.
Yeah, in Vancouver.
There it is. So, yeah, with most of my previous hobbies being very active, they're a little bit difficult to do when you're in bed. And I was trying to think of something that I could do to kind of keep busy and keep my hands busy and keep engaged that I didn't have to get out of bed for. And originally I started thinking about things like knitting and crocheting, which of course I had been taught by my mom when I was younger. And they just seemed overwhelmingly difficult to reteach myself.
Now, you said you got really sick. What you're suffering from, I looked it up, and now what's it called?
I have 2 illnesses. The 2 big ones are fibromyalgia and endometriosis.
Now, I haven't looked up the second one, but I did look up the first one, and it's interesting because some people, like, they don't know what it is.
No. The best way to describe fibromyalgia is, like, it's like having your nervous system cranked up to, like, 13. So basically, any sort of painful stimulus feels more painful to someone with fibromyalgia, but things that normally wouldn't cause people pain cause someone with fibromyalgia to have pain.
Like what?
Like a wrinkle in your sheets or a button in the back of your dress that you're leaning up against, that kind of thing, causes like a fair bit of discomfort for someone like me.
So, like, there's the old story of the princess and the pea under the mattress.
I often refer to myself as
Does that just mean that possibly you're not just royalty?
Possibly you have fibromyalgia.
It's a sign of royalty.
Right?
Maybe that's it. It's like blue blood and fibromyalgia.
Fair enough.
Excellent. So now, tell us a little bit more, and now the interesting thing I've heard about fibromyalgia is, like, they don't know if it's an immune system thing or a nervous system thing, but it's very strange in how it starts.
Yeah. From what I understand, there's 3 major triggers that activate fibromyalgia. So it tends to be something that you're predisposed to, I guess. And some sort of event will turn it on in you. So one of the ways is some sort of psychological trauma.
Right.
Another way would be an illness.
Right.
Like there have been connections to specific viruses. So if you contract a certain virus, for most people it won't. So don't freak out. But for some people that will turn on fibromyalgia. And then the third way, which is what happened to me, is it's a physical or mechanical trauma. So an injury of some sort that just turns it on.
So what happened exactly, if you don't mind?
So what happened for me was in the summer of 2009, I did the Ride to Conquer Cancer, which is a 2-day bike ride from Vancouver to Seattle for cancer research. And I injured my knee during the bike ride.
Right.
And it wasn't even really that big of an injury. It was just from repetitive riding. It wasn't like a spectacular accident.
Did you finish it?
I finished it.
Yeah, so you basically
just barely.
And you're like, wow, like my knee's messed up. Time to take a couple days off, maybe a week or 2.
Pretty much, yeah. Went to the doctor. He's like, oh, you damaged the bursa. Just, take it easy. You'll be fine. If you're not fine in like a week, go get some physio, which I'm used to,
Right.
Being an active, sporty person, I've had my share of injuries and I'm used to going to physio for stuff. So went to physio and started doing the thing and it just didn't heal. Mm-hmm. Like every other injury I'd had, you go and you do your physio like a good little patient and it gets better and you go back to your life. And this time it just didn't.
Wow. Okay. And then it also got worse and spread.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that can happen with fibromyalgia. I think in particular when it's triggered by an injury like that is that it starts in one place and then you end up starting to have problems in other parts of your body. So do you want me to kind of go over how it spread or?
Yeah, quickly.
Okay. So basically it started in my knee and then I started having pain in my hip on the same side. Then it kind of spread to both hips and my lower back. And then it was in my neck. Then it was in the entire length of my spine. Then I had problems with my shoulders and my ribs. And next thing I know, everything is pretty cranky.
So the lesson we're learning here is that bike riding is terrible, and nobody should
That's
ever
totally
ride
not
a bicycle. I'm glad I don't own a bike. Holy cow!
I still love my bike so much. My bike has actually been pretty integral in my healing process. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't recommend avoiding the bike. It's not what gave me fibromyalgia.
Right.
But yeah, it was definitely the triggering event for me.
Cool. I think you're going to need to start drinking to catch up.
I know. There's a lot of mint that's going on in the top.
I know. I think
Is yours attacking you?
Yeah. No, I think I've snorted some. A note, you can get high when you snort mint leaves. I'm pretty tripping right now.
Is that true?
No,
or are you just saying that?
I'm just tripping.
Okay. I'm just going to pull a whole whack load of mine out because it's seriously attacking.
And Angelo is whining in the background if you're wondering what that sound is.
He is desperately trying to get outside for some sunshine.
Yeah. I've actually been seeing him. He's been poking at the door handle, so he clearly knows how to open doors. This is the deal you get when you adopt an older cat. They're smart.
They're smart and they're devious,
yeah.
but they're also adorable.
Well, mine brought fascism to my neighborhood.
Which everyone needs, right?
Everyone needs a little bit of fascism in your life. But so things got pretty bad with this, but now you talked a lot when we were talking beforehand about how like the human ability to just sort of adjust and deal with things, and you came up you obviously had to come up with strategies for dealing with this.
Yes.
And that so cross stitch
eventually became one of my coping strategies. So like I was saying before, in addition to the fibromyalgia, which started in about 2009 for me, a couple years ago, I developed something called endometriosis. Basically, when I had the two of these things going on, and it left me bedbound for a while, that's where I found cross stitch. And it was kind of like a saving grace for me. It sort of brought something back into my life that I had been missing, and gave me, I don't know, like a value and a purpose again to things. Like I said, when I was starting to try and think about what I wanted to do in bed, I contemplated things like crocheting and knitting and thought, there's no way I can teach myself how to do that stuff. It's too complicated. But I remembered something that I had done when I was a little kid, which was needlepoint, which is sort of a relative or a cousin of cross stitch. And it was something that I did while my parents were cleaning out my grandpa's apartment after he passed away. My sister and I were pretty pesty and we weren't very helpful. So they
Most children are.
Indeed. So they dumped us in the basement with all the old ladies in my grandpa's building, and they gave us needlepoint kits and taught us how to do it. And these ones are pretty basic. Like, you actually get a piece of fabric that has the pattern painted right on it. So it's like paint by numbers with needle and thread. And I thought, in my unwell state, I could probably do that. I think I could do that. If my 7-year-old self could do that, my 30-something self who's not well could probably do that too. So I picked up a needlepoint kit and started doing it, and I just fell in love. And obviously the paint by number kits get a little bit simple once you've kind of got them under your belt. And so I started doing things with more complicated patterns, and I started cross stitch, which is like needlepoint uses like a half stitch, so it just goes like this, and then cross stitch is 2 stitches that go like that. So I kind of started with more complicated patterns, and then I started actually making some of my own patterns. So like the one for the karaoke slip, that's a pattern that I made myself.
And there was a really great one that was like, please don't do coke in the bathroom. I love that. That was like, to me, when I saw you send me that picture, I'm like, wow, this is awesome.
Not your grandma's cross stitch, right?
My grandma was tough. No, maybe. But it's just so funny because I live with a bunch of guys, and there's a martial arts dojo. We brew beer. We're like a frat house almost. That would go great in our bathroom because some of the people that come to our parties,
You need a bit of a warning for them.
They need to know that's not appropriate. But while you drink, because we're running way out of time. You mentioned something that was really interesting about how cross stitch sort of it's like a meditative thing that brings you a lot of peace of mind, and that's really interesting because why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, well, I originally started doing it as something to do to just keep me occupied, and found this like huge side benefit of it, that like the repetitiveness and the sort of rhythm that you get into with the stitching, because it is actually pretty repetitive. You're just making X's over and over and over again, really brought sort of a calmness to me and helped me to just find a bit of peace with the stuff that I was struggling with. And as I'm doing better now, I find that I can't stop cross stitching because I just love it so much. Like, yeah, it definitely like not only gives me something kind of fun and playful to do that people seem to enjoy enough to buy, but it also, like, I primarily actually just do it because of the way it makes me feel and the serenity that it gives me.
Okay, you're gonna need to drink more. We're really running out of time here. But okay, so things you can think about. Do you have an Etsy page? And if not, why don't you? And how much would like the Star Trek one cost? For instance, here, let me reach over. Look at this, guys. I'm a big Star Trek fan. I'm already eyeballing this. So yeah, how much would this cost?
So something like that is, I think there's like a price tag on it. It might be $30 for something little like that. There's
Plus
actually
shipping,
a lot of work that goes into a piece like this.
That's an incredibly inexpensive price for something handmade made in.
That takes me like probably about 8 hours to do. That's
right.
About 8 hours of work. So I do have an Etsy page. My Etsy name is Miss Stitched.
Miss Stitched. All right, we'll put a link in the comments below. So guys, girls, please order something hilariously offensive.
I take custom orders too, so if you don't see something on my Etsy that you want, I'll pretty much make you anything you want.
And if you can think of something hilarious and offensive and get her to make it, we will do another episode and show pictures of it. Yeah. All right, folks. This has been an episode of Between Two Pints. This is my awesome guest, Lindsay. Thank you so much. And we will have the recipe for this drink in the comments. So you should make it, drink along, and leave some drunken comments below. And yeah, let's finish our drinks and head on with our day. Thank you very much for joining us, Lindsay.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
You drink. I'll show off your scissors.
Drink those are my favorite scissors in the whole world. They're stork scissors. I love them.
All right. Let's finish this bad boy up.
I'm never gonna finish this in time.
All right, we're off. That's what the credits are for.
Okay.
All right, well, let's cut the cameras and get hammered. I got a big bottle of Jameson to finish.
Oh, God.